Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those of you who may be in another part of the country. Welcome to Facilitating Effective Virtual Team Meetings and Presentations. Our facilitator today is Teresa Cummings, and hopefully we'll have a really great time today. This is the second in a three-part series around managing your workforce in this virtual environment that we find ourselves in nowadays. Next slide. So here's the agenda for the day. Real briefly, I'm going to give a quick overview of our Atlanta MBDA centers, and we'll move on with the presentation by Teresa, followed by Q&A. Typically, Teresa does take questions and discussions during the presentation. So we'll leave it to Teresa to decide, and then we'll follow up with some information about our upcoming events and conclusion. Next. I want to thank our corporate sponsors, Comcast, EPCO, and Train Technologies for their continued support of our programs. We enjoy both the financial and, if you will, moral support of quite a number of partners, corporations, and stakeholders. Comcast, EPCO, and Train Technologies are center level sponsors that support all of our programming. Next slide. So the MBDA centers at Georgia Tech, we have two centers, our Atlanta MBDA Business Center and our Atlanta MBDA Advanced Manufacturing Centers. And our mission, as you can see here, is essentially to help grow and strengthen minority business enterprises. We want to help them create and retain jobs and really help provide a very positive economic impact on our communities and the nation as a whole. We are part of a national network of 40+ centers and special projects funded in part by the U.S. Department of Commerce Minority Business Development Agency. And as you can see from this map, we have centers, projects primarily all over the country. We also have several specialty centers or advanced manufacturing centers. As I mentioned, we have one here in Georgia, as well as one in Texas, Detroit, and Baltimore. We have 4 export centers that help our companies export to different parts of the world, primarily Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and the Asian Pacific area. And then we do have a federal procurement center that focuses on just helping companies secure business with the federal government. Here's our team. Part of our team, we did recently receive a grant to develop a super connector hub called the Innovation Hub. And so we have another team that's not represented here with the Innovation Hub. But here we have a team of individuals and companies that work very closely with us to ensure that we bring you programming and that we help meet our company's needs. On our Georgia Tech team is Brandy Nagel, our program manager, Lauren Roberts, who's our program specialist, Doreen Kincaid, our program coordinator, myself, and Aisha Jones, who's our special events planner. But we've also worked with Dr. Billy D. Brown at the Georgia Tech Manufacturing Institute. He helps advise us on programming for our manufacturers, along with Anthony Jackson from Global AJ Enterprises. Anita Davis and Jennifer Baker are our business advisors that focus on capital. So if you're seeking capital, these are the two individuals and companies that we're working with to help you secure capital, along with Jamarcus King, who is our manufacturing advisor for our Next Tech program, and Tawan Isom is helping us with our annual National MBE Manufacturer Summit. So we have a lot going on and a really great team to help us implement our programming. And so this program is being brought to you by the CARES Act. We did receive some additional funding, as did many programs, to provide technical assistance to and programming and education and training to companies that are experiencing changes in this new era that we find ourselves in with the pandemic. So under our CARES Act funding, this particular program is bringing training to you, along with we do quite a bit of work with compliance to the Paycheck Protection Program, and there was a recent release of the next round of PPP funding. And so our finance contractors are working very hard to help our companies secure PPP in this new round of funding. We also do a series of pulse checks and pivoting strategies as well as helping you identify additional funding, grants, and things of that nature as part of the CARES Act. I do want to mention to the businesses on board and those of you who support businesses is that we have seen an increase, a big increase in grants that have been released as a result of COVID-19. Typically, you don't see it pre-COVID-19. We did not see a lot of grants for-profit companies, but with the pandemic and the CARES Act funding, quite a bit of municipalities and corporations are now releasing grants to help our companies survive and thrive. So if you're a company online and you want some more information about grants, let us know. We'll send you our newsletter where we keep people informed about what's coming down the pipeline with regard to funding opportunities. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn the show over to Teresa Cummings, who is with Cummings Consulting and Management Company. And I'll have her give a little bit of background about herself and take it away. Teresa, thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Teresa Cummings, and very happy to be here to discuss our part 2 of the series of 3 events. So I am from Alpharetta, Georgia. I've been here for 19 years by way of Greenville, South Carolina. And I have about 25 years of experience in training and coaching and developing people, mostly in manufacturing. So this is my wheelhouse for all of you that are in business and under the manufacturing realm. A lot of automotive experience that I have in manufacturing, to include companies such as Harley-Davidson, BMW, and also Honda. And I have some telecommunication experience as well, and also some banking. So I've been around the block a few times, and this is my love, and this is my passion in just helping people get to the next level and be better than where they were yesterday. So I have a mechanical engineering degree, my bachelor's, and also an MBA from Webster University. So a little bit about me. We're going to have a lot of fun today. This is a topic that's near and dear to me, being that I have done a lot of virtual meetings and virtual trainings since COVID-19, and I've developed some things that I think you're going to find fun that you can definitely adopt. But before we get started, I'm going to give you every aspect of what you can actually steal and walk away from and utilize immediately. This is a little icebreaker that I want to share with you in the spirit of Black History Month, and being that our focus is on minority businesses. It's kind of like a name that tune. So what I want you to do, if you are not familiar with how to use Zoom, is go to your chat section, just click on it, and I want you to answer which business you think this is. So it's just 2 of them, short little icebreaker. Name that Black-owned business. So here we go. The first one is, this company helps you schedule meetings without the back and forth emails. This is a Black-owned business, actually in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's see what we have here. Oh, I have Doodle, Calendly. Oh, okay. You guys are... Calendly is it. It actually, they just raised $350 million. Now the company is worth $3 billion. And there's an article that was shared a couple of weeks ago about that same thing. So Calendly is Black-owned by Tope Awotona. And I actually have Calendly because it helps me with my scheduling for business meetings. So check it out. Go to calendly.com, and it's something that is very useful for you. The next one, personal care company that focuses on shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. What response? Sprays, Moisture Love. I see Shea Moisture, Johnson & Johnson, okay. Shea Moisture, owned by Sophie Tucker and Rochelle Dennis. So I actually use this product, didn't know it was Black-owned. And so that's a little tidbit of information for you. So let's get into our topic today. Facilitating effective virtual team meetings and presentations. So we're going to try to cover 3 things in the next hour. Discovering impact and the impact of ways to conduct the effective team meetings and presentations. There's tools out there that you might not be aware of. So how do we use those tools? What are those tools, and how do we use those tools within your virtual platform to engage? And then also exploring some best practices and virtual activities to apply in a team meeting. So I want this to be very interactive. Anytime you have a question, you can unmute, ask the question, or any kind of comment, you can unmute and ask the question or give a comment. Also using the chat. So we want to use as many things in this platform as possible to engage. So when we think about the effectiveness of a virtual meeting, a virtual presentation, what does effective actually mean? What I want you to do is think about that, and I'm going to open up the whiteboard, and I want you to go to the whiteboard. You should see it now. I want you to go to the whiteboard and click on the T for text and type in the area wherever you see the white area. What actually makes a virtual team meeting or presentation effective? Okay, I see interaction. Jennifer, when you say interaction, what does that mean? That could be very broad. I do agree. Interaction how?
You're right, it is very broad. So you would have interaction throughout the presentation, just like you did with chat. It could also be asking open-ended questions. Interaction could also be polls, also what you're doing right now. So where you're getting feedback from the people that you don't really get to see visually.
Yes, and some people may not want to talk, so this is another different avenue for interaction to take place. And some people have never even used a whiteboard before, so I'm going to have you utilize as many of these tools today during the presentation, so you'll be comfortable with them. So thank you, Jennifer. Participation from the entire team. Who said that one? Engagement is another one.
That was participation from the entire team was from me, and I meant it might not be that everyone speaks, but everyone has a way to participate somehow.
Okay, all right. And I see engagement, which is another very broad, term, which I agree with, but how do you engage? Like, what are some of the things we're doing? It's really similar to interaction, and you're trying to get people involved and to participate. Agenda and purpose, yes. If you don't know what you're going to talk about, how are you going to talk about it? And getting that information and being clear and concise up front with your purpose and your agenda. Great visuals, yes. Once I did a presentation on just images, no words used at all. And it was a very powerful thing to do. So maybe there's some more images you place in or great visuals versus words in your presentation. Anything else? Stay on time and on topic, yes. On time and on topic. There is a term that I use when we're off topic. It's called squirrel. Anyone heard of squirreling? The movie Up has a squirrel, it turns its head. So the code word is squirrel if we find ourselves going down this rabbit hole of another topic. Donna, you had a question or a comment?
Well, I think I got it, but I'm trying to type, but it's not working.
Okay, so you
Donna Ennis, but
go to the T up top and press T.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say, all right, there we go. People can engage.
And if you want, you can click outside of the writing box to let it show. Creating connection virtually. Who said that one? It is very hard.
I said it.
Okay.
I said it. And what I mean by that is that trying to, so in response to sort of like the engagement conversation, when people are in a virtual meeting, it's weird and uncomfortable because they're used to meeting in person. So how do you create settings and present practices so that people can still feel connected and feel like they've actually interacted virtually? So like a good example of that would be like when, you know, usually when you go to a meeting, like if we were all meeting in a room, we'd probably like maybe get a cup of coffee or have like lunch together. We'd be finishing our lunch or something and we'd be talking about that, but there's no setting for that in a virtual meeting. So how do you create a space where like you kind of bring everybody together so they feel like they're in the meeting? So that's what I was thinking about.
Okay, yeah, I like that, definitely. And I'll share some of those examples later on. Thank you, Bianca. So yes, a part of this is actually learning these tools if you haven't used them before. Just like Donna asked a question, like I can't find it. Because if you never used it before, this is a safe place to learn how to use these tools, and you can actually use them next time you have a meeting. Emotional intelligence, yes. Sometimes our emotions gets in the way of actually getting things accomplished. And if we are effective in our presentations and facilitating, effectively, then the emotional intelligence will definitely be intact. And sometimes this emotional intelligence can be nonverbal versus verbal. So when we are on camera, which a lot of us don't like to do in these Zoom calls or any type of other platform, we tend to have a lot of our emotions show on our face. So that's important as well. We can have emotional intelligence without even saying anything verbally. Okay, so let's see what's in the chat here. So I believe, is it Brandy, you said tip, go to view options near the top and click on the annotate. Okay, that was showing her how to actually go to the whiteboard. And then I see preparation, practice ahead of time, definitely preparing and testing. Preparing and testing out your slides, your audio, your video, all of that stuff. So we'll get into that later. Thank you, lots of good participation. So we will close out of this. So we now know what effective means. So how would you actually rate your effectiveness when you are conducting actual team meetings and facilitating virtually? So I'm going to open this poll and I want you to vote. Do you think you're very effective, somewhat effective, not effective, or you're not sure, you just never thought about whether or not your meetings are good or bad? Here's the poll. Please vote now. Okay. We'll close in about 5 seconds. All right, I will end the poll and share these results. So most of you, about 57% said somewhat effective. I would love to hear from the 29%, someone out of the 6 that said very effective. So you are achieving all of those things that we mentioned earlier? Who would like to elaborate? Who voted for A?
Yeah, I will. I know that every time that me and Brandy have our meetings, they're very, very focused. We get accomplished everything that we set out to accomplish in our meetings, and I love the fact that we don't just jump into this roboticness of just here's what we're going to talk about, here's what we need to get accomplished. It is a very casual flow into, but we get everything we need to get accomplished. Sometimes I'm like, are we really going to get it all done? But we end up getting it all done. So, but between the combination of Slack and video, we end up doing a really good job. So, yeah. So for me, our meetings work out really, really well.
with you and Brandy Nakia, I can definitely attest to that. I'm sure you guys are very organized and very structured. So thank you. Okay, so from the one who, there's 3 of them that said D, not sure. So are you not sure because you have never asked or you just never thought about it? Anyone would like to elaborate on the not sure?
I was actually one of the not sures and I really had not thought about it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and then, there's that thing where you just do the meeting and you sometimes just focus on what to say and how the meeting should run and what you need to prepare for the meeting. And, it doesn't dawn on you whether or not the meeting is effective or some of the things that you could do differently. So asking that in the form of an evaluation, maybe at the end of your presentation or meeting so you can get feedback, getting one-on-one feedback. So seeking out that can kind of give you an idea of how to bridge the gap between what you might know and what you can improve. All right, thank you. So here is a video of something that we do not want to happen. And we've seen those out there. Let me get rid of this polling for a minute. So we've probably experienced this a time or two in several videos. We've seen some crazy videos out there on some mishaps in virtual meetings. Here's one of them.
Goodbye. All right. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
See you guys.
Tony!
Can you hear us?
Tony!
Oh no. Don't. Jen, call him. Oh my gosh. Hold on, I'm gonna text a couple pictures of that. Oh. Oh. Oh boy.
What's up?
Tony, I can see you when you're
We can
under
all
there.
see you. Goodbye.
Okay, so we know we've all been there, right? Where we've either been a participant or we've had a mishap ourselves. So we definitely do not want to have that happen, especially in a workplace environment. Totally wrong. So we're gonna kind of revisit this video throughout the day, and there's lots of them out there, and some tidbits on how to avoid those things. The first one is having a good communication when you are having virtual meetings. So communication is definitely key. There's lots of things that can happen when we miscommunicate, but the closer we get to having that communication be clear and concise, the better. So these are some communication elements: tone of voice, body language, and words. You have 7%, 38%, 55%. So how much of tone of voice, as far as a rule is, do you think out of the 7, 38, or 55 is being used when we communicate? How much of body language and how much of words? Well, let's start with tone of voice. Put in chat what you think tone of voice is, what percentage? Okay, I see 38. %, okay. And tone of voice, we're talking about inflection, volume, pace, pitch, all of that. Okay, Nakia says 38. Okay, Latanya says 40. All right. So then how about body language? Body language, 55, 38. So it's kind of switched. So words, you thinking words would be less or the lowest one, maybe 7%? All right, let's see. So tone of voice, it's 38%. Body language, 55, and 7% of words. That's what we believe. So it's safe to say that we believe more of what we see than more of what we hear. So if we don't see you on camera, and we're only going to believe that 38%, which is tone of voice. So how does that work when you're not showing your camera? Because you can't see your body language. If that is that important, how does that work? And we already know that it's difficult. It's you know, I had to curl my hair this morning. I had a ponytail. I was chilling at the house with my pajamas. And if I have a call where I don't have to share my video, I'm like, yes. And I'm sure you guys can attest to that. However, when we have a meeting where you know that that engagement interaction needs to happen, let's just look presentable and show our video. It's not that much. We only need half of our body to show up, right? So we're not really in person one-on-one. Christopher says, me too, and he's bald. Thank you. So yes, let's keep that in mind. And so these two are very important. We're going to focus on the tone of voice and body language within our virtual meetings. The first one, using audio for engagement. So it's best to choose options from your like computer audio, your headset, or your microphone. So these are actually three of what I have. You see at the bottom, there's a Yeti mic here. I got this for Christmas. Santa Claus brought it for me. It's an excellent sound piece. So look into getting something like that if you want to kind of step your game up. A headset, which blocks out noise. It helps save me actually, because when I'm training virtually, sometimes my landscaper comes and there's a lot of noise from the lawnmower and it totally drowns things out. And then you have your audio, which I'm using today on my Mac, which is an excellent audio as well. And then you have your AirPods. So consider using those things, and whichever one fits for you for that period of time. Test out your volume and your sound quality before the meeting, especially with the videos. The video I just showed, there are certain parameters that you have to click in the background for your audio to show on your videos. It can't just show by you playing the video. So you have to in Zoom go in and click something that says play audio for video. So make sure that you test out the videos ahead of time in your presentation form, in your PowerPoint if you have one, not your regular form, your PowerPoint, your presentation form. Muting your audio, and this is kind of like a ground rule. Whenever you're responding or asking questions, you can unmute and then mute back because it drowns out the noise. And then picking a quiet place to avoid outside noise. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but because we have people in their house, or if there's a private room that you can go to, or just sometimes away from the house where there's a quiet place. So trying to choose a place where you have that, you know, that undivided attention and no background noise. My friend told me the other day that he thought he muted his phone and he had flushed the toilet and everyone heard it. So we definitely want to be cognizant of those things. And speak confidently and clearly. You know, we're virtual. So when you're talking about your tone, your pitch, your volume, your pace and inflection, those are all important. Think of how animated you would be if you use all of those things. It's kind of like reading a book to a child. If you close your eyes and remember the last time you read a book to a child, you're using all of these to animate and to provide color and clarity to the child that you're reading to. You're going to be somebody, whoever the character is, that's who you're going to be, and you're going to fit yourself so that you can engage your child. So think in terms of how you can engage us with your tone of voice and using tone, pitch, volume. I once got a D in a history class because I had a monotone professor, the best grade I ever could get, because I almost failed it. He was so monotone. I even bought a recorder and still fell asleep during his sessions. So we want to provide color, pitch, like some color and just some variations in your speaking. Fillers, I put no fillers. So we all pretty much probably know what our fillers are. You knows, so's. What are some others? Okay. Fillers can also be body language. Some people talk with their hands, and it could be distracting. It's anything that could be distracting, verbally and non-verbally. Like is another one, and so, you know what I'm saying? So be mindful of those fillers. We all have them, and we're not going to be perfect in not using them every single time, but make sure they're not distracting. My very first training presentation to get certified, I had a 5-minute presentation. I had 75 in 5 minutes. It was awful. This was like 25 years ago, so I have improved considerably. So at the end of that week, we had an hour presentation. So I had 4 days to work on eliminating fillers. So I did a lot of those things where I would just be cognizant. Awareness is key. So for an hour on Friday, I had 5 ums in 1 hour presentation, which was a whole lot better than 75 for 5 minutes. So let's try to reduce those. Pause in between the sentences or statements that you're making, and breathe and be confident in knowing that what you say matters. Can anybody think of anything else in using audio for engagement other than these that you have to share? Any other tools other than the ones I've mentioned below? Okay.
Yeah, I use a wireless lavalier mic when I'm doing like presentations, a clip-on lapel, clip-on. Sometimes that really helps with the audio, and sometimes I will just use a clicker too. Sometimes when I'm doing virtual presentations, so that I don't get into the habit of just sitting here tapping my finger and they're hearing me click through, which is fine. But just trying to eliminate all of those, usual distractions for me, so that I'm at that comfortable level. So, and I found that the wireless lavalier mic is the sound is usually pretty good, really good on those.
Thank you, Nakia. Definitely. And some people feel like they speak better and more clearly when they're standing up during a presentation. So your wireless mic would be perfect in that case. So consider doing that. Donna?
I find that I have to like visualize that I'm talking to people, because I go between looking at, say, you and then trying to look into the camera. So I'm looking directly at people. And so I find myself, picturing that I'm actually in a room talking to live bodies so that I can have, and I smile. I try to smile. So that helps me with my engagement.
Great, thank you. Smiling is the most universal nonverbal facial expression in the world.
Yeah.
Why is it, Brandy?
So I'll say I've got one of those Alexa devices on my desktop, just sitting over here on my desk, and I turn it to mute and silent, because if I'm talking to someone and someone's named Alexa or Alexis, or even if I say some words that sound like, then it will say, "Yes, Brandy, what can I do for you?" So I have to turn that off and put my phone on mute so I don't have that background noise accidentally.
Okay, great, great. Yes. Another thing I use before starting a meeting or a training, I play music. Great audio just to kind of get the environment started and where you want people energized. There's lots of great playlists that you can use and playing music before a session. And like play like when I did the icebreaker earlier, Name that tune could be an icebreaker for you where you have the music and you just kind of get people revved up before you start your meeting or presentation. Very simple. Valerie says, hey, Valerie, having a mirror nearby helps too. It makes you smile. And yes, music is energizing. Definitely. Jennifer says, silence your phone. Definitely. I have mine on Do Not Disturb because it was blowing up right before I started. So, and also putting your notifications on your computer on Do Not Disturb. Okay.
One other thing, Teresa, is that to make sure that your fire alarm has batteries. I was on a meeting yesterday, and the person's batteries in her fire alarm kept going off. I thought it was mine at first. I was like, wow, I just changed the batteries. But yeah, things like that, I really think you should really pay heed to.
Yes, and the chirping, yeah, that chirping on the battery, it is so annoying.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I was in class when someone had that happen. Okay, let's see what else we have in chat. Email, yes, close your email. Definitely, Jennifer. Great strategy, Bianca says, but you definitely need to figure out the sound on the virtual meeting tech for music. Yes, you do. You definitely do. And that's why I said test ahead of time. So let's move. I just said test ahead of time. So we're talking about now visual, the video. So using video for engagement. Test every single thing you have. I remember I had a presentation and the platform was different than the one I'm used to using. And it took out all my animations. Every single animation. And I did not discover that it did that until the presentation. So test under the platform that you're using ahead of time. Another one is the work setting appearance. So, like the young man in the video, he looked okay from the waist up until he stood up and he left thinking the video was off. So I would probably be on the safe side, try to dress appropriate from head to toe, just to be on the safe side. Yes, work appearance is important. I really like how you're acknowledging people's comments inside the chat. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, I just acknowledged you. So the work setting appearance, let's talk about that. Because we do have a dress code in the working environment when we are physically at work. Human resources takes a lot of time in developing a dress code. Have you seen or heard of a dress code for virtual meetings now that everyone is at home after the pandemic? No? Okay. Let's talk about what that would look like. If you're a manager and or if you have a business, what would be some ground rules that you would want to incorporate in the appearance in the workplace for virtual meetings? So Jennifer says, will you discuss the dress? Okay, can you elaborate? You can unmute yourself.
Okay, so whenever we meet with our instructors, we just talk about, consistency and backgrounds. We have certain backgrounds we use. If we have more than one instructor, we talk about which color background we're going to use. And then we also talk about that the camera should be on if you're instructing, but also, are you going to wear clothing that has our Georgia MEP on it, or are you going to wear a tie? We have some instructors that dress up with ties and dress shirts, and we have students in co-ops, and we go over, don't wear t-shirts, be a little bit more professional, comb your hair. So those who've never been through a virtual platform before, those are things that we sometimes take for granted that we all know.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. It sounds like you could actually write the dress code for virtual meetings, Jennifer. Thank you. Brandy says sometimes a striped shirt looks weird on video, like an optical illusion of wavy lines. Yes, I'm about to give you an example. Great point at the right time, because I like to position the background against the wall to avoid any distracting views. So if my house is cluttered or junky, you will not see it because it's against, you're looking at the wall or you're looking at the background that I have. If you have more than one person in the house and they're walking around and they're not presentable, you're not going to see it because you are against the wall. So that's a good tidbit to think about. Like, how can you position your room to where, you know, if there is a mishap, to try to avoid it. So if that gentleman in the video had his, you would probably see a little bit, but you wouldn't see as much as you did because you could see his whole room if he had his computer or laptop against the wall. So think in terms of that. And then there's also the distance, arm's length. You can be really close or you can be far away. So you want to have a good, if you think arm's distance from your webcam, that's a good length or distance between you and people looking at you. It's very inviting. Jennifer says no one wants to see nose hairs. Yes. And I do have a green screen in the back, which it has a lot to do with the lighting and the clear. I have a whole production back here and I have different backgrounds that I've used. And it's important for your lighting to be, you see this picture here, the distance between, the difference between the young lady on the left and her on the right. She looks so much brighter and so much more inviting, and lots of lamps. I have a ring light. You see the picture of the ring light here. I have the ring light right behind my laptop currently, as well as the green screen in the back. And then I have 2 lights over here on each side because one, this room has 2 windows. Even though the shades are closed, I can still have some variances in the shades and to the light because it's in the front of the house. So you got to keep in mind, where do you want to position yourself? What room you want to use that will give you less variation in the lighting. And then also when you are using a background or like a green screen for your background, you have to be careful of what you wear. So I have a green screen here, and I'm going to show you what it looks like if I had on a green shirt. You see the difference here. So I am translucent if I wear a green shirt. Green on green, you never do that. So be mindful and test out what it is you're actually wearing. And there are also, you might have seen this, if someone doesn't have a green screen and they're using a background, it seems like they're like floating within the background. That means they don't have a green screen to actually have that solid, clear background setting. Okay. So Lauren says, this may sound strange, but here's a tip. Dress the way you would in the face-to-face meeting. Yes. Put shoes on, sit upright with your feet on the floor. Even if other people can't see this, your mind knows what you are fully dressed and ready for work. Excellent comment, yes. Dress as if you're going to work on the outside. So Donna, you have a question on protocol.
Yes. So, you know, when we first went into this virtual world, everybody was kind of casual and, oh, we're working from home and we're getting used to it. So a couple of questions. Do you, from a protocol perspective, do you see times when a manager or should require that people have their cameras on? Or do you think that there's a trend toward making sure your staff is professionally dressed? Because one of the things that I find is, you know, if we're doing a virtual meeting and everybody have their cameras off, we might as well do a phone call. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, do you find that people are trying to decide, you know, which way to go, or they're just saying, well, you keep your cameras on or not? I'm just trying to understand from your perspective, because you do a lot of training around this. And what are you seeing in the workplace?
Well, when I am training personally, I try to encourage, you know, everyone to show their cameras and use audio and the chat and all the tools as much as possible. There are some companies that have mandated during virtual training that everyone shows their camera. I would personally try to create the buy-in for my team. So if I have a team of 5 to 10 people and we're meeting all the time, maybe we come up with a concept where only in certain meetings that we dress accordingly and show our camera. And maybe there's some meetings that may not warrant we show our camera. Maybe it's a 30-minute meeting or just a check-in, and
Okay.
it's not warranted. So the more we create the buy-in, the more they're going to own it and be okay with it. So we want everyone to own this and be okay with it. It's something new. We don't right now, and if you have no mandate from HR of what the requirements are, try to create it yourself and encourage and influence that buy-in from your team.
Okay, I can see with presentations, but meetings, you know, sometimes now I'm saying, well, maybe we should just have a phone call. You know, it's not
Yeah.
even, you know, worth going through the teams and the bandwidth if everybody has their camera off. And then maybe there's some meetings, because how do you create engagement?
Mhm.
Like you said, 55% is body language. How do you create engagement in a virtual world if people are not engaged? So I think it's just a question I have for conversation for the team, for the group.
Yeah. And what I try to do, if I know I have a training, I will schedule meetings in which I have to show my video the same day. So I am dressed up the whole day, and then tomorrow I can just chill. So I don't know if you can have certain meetings on certain days where everyone shows their camera, and then the ones that aren't as important to show their camera, have them on off days. So think in terms of that. Because we like to chill at our own house, but we're still at work. So let's have maybe a happy medium and come together and figure out something collectively within your team. So Christopher says his company mandates it. The video presence is attendance. Wow. Would you like to elaborate on that, Chris?
Yes, I work with a company that does a 2 to 3 week training, 40 hours a week. So we have 3 time zones that I am responsible for. So our attendance policy that was in-house became camera off-site. So whereas normally people would swipe and come into the building and you'll call roll, you being logged in, because a lot of people did it by phone versus camera, we were not sure they were actively there, let alone engaged. So we required the video. And the comment earlier about bandwidth was a factor, but because our company also provided the participants' laptops, we have a technical room that we troubleshoot through that. So we pretty much are no excuses. You're on camera. And unfortunately, that's why I'm off camera. This is like a break for me, a reprieve.
You have to do your hair involved. So, I mean, Christopher is a personal colleague and great friend, so I can joke with him like that. So yes, I would love to see your face though. I hadn't seen you like years.
Are you ready for this? I'm
No.
not properly dressed either, so.
Okay.
It's just a t-shirt, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. Great comment. So yeah, there's such a variance within companies. Attendance means, you know, when you show your camera, that means that you have attended and you are present. Let's see what else is in the chat. Jennifer, okay.
Valerie has her hand raised, Teresa.
Okay, Valerie.
Hello, everyone. I apologize for coming on late. I couldn't get on at first, and I see why now. Anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. Thank you, Teresa, for inviting me. I was just going to piggyback off something you had already said, and I should have taken my hand down, but you talked about the green screen. And I do quite a few presentations, or actually I'm in different Zoom meetings several times a week. And initially when I first started, I couldn't understand why I had that fuzzy look when I show my beach, because I live in Florida, or I had some particular background. If I was presenting, I definitely wanted to not be moving around and not showing half of my head like you gave the demonstration earlier. But it made a big difference when you have a green screen. If you don't have a green screen, you're going to get that. And like you said, if you wear green, you're going to look cut off. So that was pretty much what I wanted to say. But also I talked about one other little quick point. Thank you for allowing me the time. Today I don't have a picture on purpose because again, this is a casual day for me. Monday and Tuesdays are my slow down days, and then I get busier through the week. So I purposely did not put a video on. Sometimes I catch, like Teresa said, I get up, I put my makeup on, I'm on for the day because I'm going to be on screen. So I do apologize for not showing my face.
That's
I got
okay.
to get a better picture, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thanks, Valerie. And Brandy has a question about household pets. What question is that?
Well, so if I have a formal or proper presentation where I'm leading, then I close the door so the cats can't come in. But actually I have a cat sitting right over here now and she might come by. And I don't know if that's just terribly inappropriate and unprofessional. But it can't bother anyone who has allergies, and my cats really make me happy. So I wanted to get your feedback on that.
Well, when your cat walks around, I sneeze. I really don't, but I love when kids come in the room all of a sudden. It just breaks up the meeting, energy. I don't know about y'all, but I invite that because it's part of the relationship building. Like we talked about engagement on the first part of our web series. It's about engagement. We are at work, at home. Things are going to happen like that. So I invite those types of things, kids coming in, not every single time we have a meeting and disrupting, but if it's more of a casual meeting, yeah, I want to see your pets. I want you to talk about your pets. I want you to be comfortable in the setting that you're in. And that makes you more comfortable to engage and participate. What do you guys think?
So Teresa, I struggled with that at first because I tend to be really, like, when I'm professional and on, I'm professional and on. I mean, I'm at work, I'm at home. But, us being forced into this work environment, work from home environment, I understand that there will, not be any that we won't go back to normal. We'll go forward to a new normalcy. And that's part of that new normalcy is a cat may walk across the table or a kid may come in all of a sudden. And, that's part of it. And I do think it does help us be more engaged and more personal now.
Right. And it helps us to be more human. We're going to talk about
right.
Yeah.
So I've had to adjust my thinking on that.
Yes. Because when you would normally be at work, that's that cat's house. Now you haven't infringed on his territory at the time that he's alone. So, it's already hard being with you, Brandy, during 9 to 5 because you were usually at work, right? So let's help the cat.
I think like moments with pets and kids, like just cute little moments, help you be more vulnerable and kind of like see a piece of your coworker's life you wouldn't usually see. Like I can remember we had a networking event in January for clients and somebody had his like little 2-year-old on, and I can just still remember that. It was just delightful. So
Yeah. And I've had happy hours on Fridays where we all bring our families. Everybody participates. They come in and they're sitting on the Zoom call with everyone and they're introducing themselves. And, you might have some wine or a beer and the kids might have their little, high C or water or whatnot, juice. And everyone's just gathered around and trying to, build those relationships. So think in terms of that. Valerie says the cats and kids sometimes get jealous or perhaps wants the attention. Like you said, yes, it's hard to do that. Even homes, now I'm getting my real estate license and homes are changing to where normally you would have one office. The whole structure of how a house might look 5-10 years from now may definitely change, probably less than 5 years, because if both parents are working from home and you have a child now going to school virtually, there's 3 spots you need to allow in the house where you can be successful, everybody, and not kill each other. So even homes are probably, I think they said, more likely going to change to where there's 2 offices or 2 spaces where people can have that privacy. So think in terms of that. Great discussion. The last one, smile. I think Donna mentioned that. Be present, be mindful of eye contact and facial expressions. Yes. There's a song, it's an old R&B song. It's written all over your face. You don't have to say a word. It's written all over our face. And sometimes we have poker faces, but I don't. Like my emotions show right here. I try to cover it up. And if you're like that, I see Brandy laughing. Like we definitely both have that problem. So think in terms of how you are showing up and how you are present in virtually in showing your videos. Also the background, if you don't have a background like mine that can camouflage things, there's beautiful pictures that you can put on the wall. I like yours, Donna. There was someone doing a presentation one time and they had this Led Zeppelin picture on it was a picture on the back of it. And I kept looking at it and I was totally distracted. So make sure that your background or the paintings that you have, or their words aren't so interesting that it's distracting from them listening to what you have to say. So think in terms of that as well. So these are some more, we've covered the video and the audio section, and those were just really, really important to cover. So these are some more tidbits here I just want to share with you. Choosing the right technology and the right platform. So there's a difference between a webinar and a training, and those platforms are built accordingly. When we did our first webinar series, a couple of months ago, we had WebEx events. WebEx events is basically, it's strictly like a webinar series type platform. It does not utilize animations. It does not utilize polling, no whiteboards. There aren't a lot of interaction tools. It's really designed for lecturing. Like I talk and you listen. It's not a lot of the back and forth like we're doing today. I have to have the interaction. I want to facilitate a conversation that we have. So I need something that's a lot more interactive, this platform. So Zoom works for me. WebEx training works for me. GoToMeeting, there's a training piece that works for me as well. So there's so many. Hangout. There's Microsoft Teams now offers the breakout sessions. So research those and make sure they're the right platforms for you and the technology that you need. So Jennifer says, we have an instructor who changes her background after each break. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So the next one is be prepared. We talked about that being an effective way to have a really good meeting. Being prepared as far as audio, visual, all of those things that we mentioned. What's the difference between facilitating and instructing or like lecturing? The first word in the title of this series is facilitating. What would I mean by facilitate? I purposely use that word.
Teresa, I think facilitating has something to do with making something easy to understand.
Yes. Help you guide a topic or conversation. Yeah.
Teaching is like knowledge transfer, I think.
Knowledge transfer, yes.
It's interacting and engaging your audience.
Exactly. So for facilitators, and I am an expert facilitator of this topic, there's two different types of facilitators, process facilitator and an expert facilitator, subject matter expert. So if I am to teach a presentation skills class like I'm doing, I have done this for 20 years. I'm therefore an expert, but I'm also facilitating the process in which you get from this agenda item to this agenda item to this agenda item. If I'm a process facilitator and I have no clue what you're talking about, take an example, Nakia and Brandy's entrepreneurship for technology. If they ask me to come in and facilitate a group of people who are brainstorming an idea for innovation, I have no idea what they're talking about, what the subject is. So I can go in as a process facilitator and make sure the agenda is achieved from point A to point B to point C. I am also an expert facilitator. It does not matter if I don't know anything about the subject. So there's two different ways. So I'm asking questions more than I'm telling. when I facilitate. I can give you information and then test you by asking questions. Those questions are mostly open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions. Then the open-ended questions generates thought and then adds to that for participation. So it leads to participation. So when we have, say, a new employee come on board, we want to probably train or instruct them because they don't have a lot of knowledge. But then we can get to a point of asking those questions for clarity, for feedback, for just making sure that they are understanding what the task is. So think in terms of how we facilitate team meetings and not just instruct or train or actually be over a team meeting. We want to really facilitate and bring that interaction. Set ground rules. We're going to do an exercise in a minute in which you are going to come up with some of these ground rules that you could actually utilize for your team. And they could be anything from making sure, when are you going to mute your phone? When are you going to unmute your phone? What are some of the things, like we said, as far as audio and video, visual or showing your webcam is concerned? And some of the things that you're going through that you probably might need some coaching for in your team meetings. Okay, so engaging and involving everyone, setting meeting roles. A lot of times when we are conducting or facilitating a meeting, we think it's our meeting only. No, it's whoever is in the room's meeting and yours. So it's a collaborative effort. So set some meeting roles. Who is the timekeeper? Who is the minute taker or someone who could be recording the session? Sometimes recording the session and taking minutes might also be needed. Both might be needed so that there's some type of written document that decisions are made. Who is like the minute taker or the scribe, that's what we call it. Who is the facilitator? It doesn't always have to be you. If it's a standing meeting, once or twice a month or a week, rotate facilitators so they get that chance. And if the agenda warrants for, say, 5 to 7 items, don't facilitate every single agenda item. Let someone else facilitate some of those agenda items and ask them to take some of the part in that. We also have something called the parking lot. There's sometimes things might come up where we may not understand or we don't have the answer to, and we need to put things in the parking lot. Make someone in charge of getting those answers in the parking lot if there's one in the meeting. So all of those things that you can think of to involve engagement and things like that. Another thing I wanted to mention, we know that in a lot of these meetings virtually, we multitask. There might be some of that going on right now where you're working on something and typing an email or whatnot. So we have to maintain the self-esteem of everyone in the room. So if I said, what do you think about that, Brandy? And Brandy just sent off an email and she has no idea what I just talked about. She's now like, I was on mute. What did you say again? Trying to play it off. So what about if I said, Brandy, this question is for you? And now Brandy is ready to receive what I'm asking her, and she can then answer or respond, because that's what you really want, her to answer and respond and engage. So think in terms of how we are actually running and facilitating our meetings to not try to put people on the spot, and how we can twist some of the things that we've been doing in the past. A lot of things we think we can do and be successful at in virtual meetings that we do in live meetings, but they are a little bit different. Okay. Any questions on the additional virtual tips?
Teresa, I want to say I really like that last thing about giving a person a heads up that they're about to be asked something. Because if you make this blah, blah, blah statement and then say, so what do you think, and call on someone, it's like a gotcha, right? And then that person gets this little surge of anxiety chemicals, and it reduces their effectiveness for the rest of the meeting. Mm-hmm. It's actually not helpful, and it's the smallest thing, but just saying, I'm going to give you and you can even say, I'm giving you a heads up because I'm going to ask you for your opinion in just a moment. And then the other thing is if I get caught because I was checking email when someone asked me something, it's okay for me to say most of the time to say, I'm sorry, I was distracted for a moment. Could you repeat the question? And then just be a human about it. It's okay.
Yes, definitely. Great point. Providing think time, Jennifer says, yes. That actually happened to me, Brandy. You agree? Yes, definitely. Okay, so if no other questions or comments, I want to break you up so you can experience, if you have not, a breakout room. And in the activity of a 20-minute assignment that I'm going to give you. So the assignment is discuss challenges you faced when facilitating virtual team meetings. So when I break you in this room, you're going to discuss the challenges you face when facilitating the meetings or presentations. Coach each other on possible ways to overcome those challenges. And in using those solutions, create a list of ground rules that would be comfortable for you and your team that you could create buy-in for. So if you're the leader of this, like come up with your list first and then go take that list. You're going to take that list after we leave here the next meeting and say, I came up with some things. I would like for you guys to interject, give me some feedback and add to this list so we can have more effective team meetings and virtually, and be prepared to share your insights in the main room. We're not going to like go from room to room, but we will just share insights openly. All right. So I am going to stop sharing and place you in the breakout rooms, and how this is going to go is it will tell you, please, there's 22 people, so I'll do 5 apiece. So it will ask you to join a breakout room. And
Teresa, don't add me to one of the rooms.
Aisha?
Don't add me to one of the rooms. I'm taking attendance.
All right, I will not add you.
And Teresa, maybe you can share those prompts again.
The prompts for the...
That was on your last slide, the things we're to talk about.
Okay, I can actually put them in the breakout room.
Excellent. I didn't know that was possible.
It will most likely be in the form of the text, the chat. Okay. And let's see. The rest. Brandy, you want to be in one?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, here we go. We have 20 minutes to come up with, okay, someone just dropped. Let me move somebody. Move to 4. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Hey, Teresa, everything okay? You're on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just in the breakout rooms, making sure like you're the only one unassigned. Yeah, so that's good. Going to each of the ones and just saying hello. So
Oh,
I'm gonna join
okay.
the other two. Okay.
You need me to go to one of the breakout rooms? I was just like, we had quite a few walk-ins, so I was putting them in there in the Eventbrite.
Oh, okay. No, you're good.
Okay. sounds
Okay.
good.
All right. Okay. Make sure. Okay. You good, Aisha?
Yeah, I sent some of them that I didn't have their email addresses. I sent them in a chat. When you come back on, Teresa, can you tell them to check their chats, to tell everyone to check their chats, and if they have a message from me to respond to it? Because
Okay.
I
What do you
needed
need
their
from them?
I asked them for their email address and their company name.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think what happened is that Brandy set up like the event as an event in LinkedIn, and for some reason LinkedIn didn't capture that information. So we have about 10 of them that came in through LinkedIn. So I
Okay.
need that email that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably say 5 minutes left.
Okay, it's going really well. Like some people sent me like some text messages, and we have quite a few people. I invited them from Georgia Tech that are like Jennifer. She's the course developer for Georgia Tech. For our
Oh,
department,
wow.
Georgia Tech. Jennifer
Cool.
Stone. Yeah. So
Uh-huh. I
mhm.
like her. She has some really great points.
She is very smart, and she is like she uses she facilitates some of the classes and things like that. Her and Jay and Megan, she does the growth services, some of those meetings. So I invite anyone that does meetings to because I thought that they would like it. They said they like it a lot. They asked me when the next one was, so that's good.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
I
she's
love your hair like that in that picture. I keep looking at.
oh, my green hair. I know I need to make it green again. Now it's gray and black, but I haven't been to the hairdresser in like a year and a half. So
Wow.
it's time to go back. I miss my, and everyone is like, I'm confused about seeing you without colored hair because I love color in my hair, green and red sometimes. And so, yeah, but now I need to go, but I'm too chicken because of the virus.
Yeah.
I'm too chicken. Mhm. Yeah. So I
Man,
just
I
say you have
believe
5
and I
more
started
minutes.
to add some more things. I was like, wow, I'm gonna run out of time. Still had some other things to do, but that's okay.
No, I think I think that it might be okay. Do you want me to ask Donna, is it okay for you to go a little bit over her and Lauren? Because I think everyone is really excited about this. How much longer do you think you might need?
Probably another 10 minutes. We're gonna debrief. It's like 2:21 now, but then I had some other resources to share of how they can engage, like the activities, just a couple of other more slides, but then we have Q&A, and I think that another slide for Lauren.
I'll just tell
So
them that
that
you'll go over like maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll just tell them.
okay,
you know,
okay.
Yeah.
All
And maybe
right.
you might just mention it to them, like we might go over like 15. I'll get once they say it's okay, then you can just tell everyone that we'll probably go about 15 minutes over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see if I can speed it up. It was such great conversation. I didn't want it to like not happen, so it was a lot of engagement.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah.
Can you put me in the room with Donna? She's calling me to come in there.
Oh, she is? Okay.
I think she just wants me to see how the room is.
Okay, Donna is in room 4. Here you go.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Welcome back.
Sorry, Latanya was talking when we got cut off, but we got some
Okay.
good input.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
okay. I
good,
was
good.
finished.
Feel free to continue the conversation. A few of you are probably on the same team. I kind of try to strategically match you with some and some not. So feel free to continue that conversation. You might end up with a great set of ground rules that everybody can adopt. So what were some of those, just quickly, because I want to share some other tidbits with you before we leave. We might run a little bit over, maybe 5 minutes. So what were some insights that you gained from the conversations?
I can go ahead and start if you'd like, Teresa.
Sure.
One thing that was a consistent theme from everybody that spoke in our group was making sure things were prepared well ahead of time. In the case of the people I was talking with, you had lectures or courses that were pretty information intensive, and you have people attending who are at varying levels of computer literacy. So a week beforehand, send out an email with instructions on how to download the software, how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
The Vicky's has had some students help create a video that guided them through the process, but basically making sure you can sort of cut off any technical issues before they occur ahead of time, being prepared ahead of time and making sure everybody's on the same page.
Great, great. And having those practice sessions, even, ask a friend or something to join a test call, a test meeting. Because you have some, like if you are on a VPN at your company and you try to get into, say, like a WebEx, and you're getting into WebEx Online. The WebEx Online and the WebEx app version, if you download it, may be a little different. And if through VPN, it's even more difficult. Sometimes you may not have all the features in your WebEx if you join through VPN and you're online. I experienced that in a training, and no one could use the breakout rooms because they were on VPN online on their WebEx versus downloading the actual app. So it's those little intricacies that you really need to be mindful of and just continue to test, and you really want to be comfortable with the tools you're using.
And I just got a
teams don't work well together either. Yes. So Microsoft Teams and VPN. Yes.
I'd
Great.
like to interject because this is Anita, and my question was about technology issues when you are facilitating a meeting or leading a discussion, and Jennifer had some great suggestions about having a co-facilitator or technology person be my backup, just in case I go to that frozen screen with my lips hanging to one side and my face crazy. I want to make sure that somebody can pick up the slack and keep the presentation going. And I thought that was a great success or best practice story. And then we were right in the middle of Andrea sharing some great best practices about what to do to how to engage another facilitator. And I would love to hear her finish some of those suggestions.
Hi, Andrea.
You're on mute.
Okay, hey everyone. No, I was just sharing with the group that I'm not a facilitator, but I am in sales and spend a lot of time online in front of the customer. And I was sharing that as I'm speaking to my executive groups with my customer, a lot of times in the subject line of the meeting request, I'll let them know that this is going to be a video call, right? So asterisk video, asterisk, and then the title, so that they know that they need to show up on video for this call. And my team knows that on any customer call that we need to be present face to face, because that's how you continue building the relationship and maintaining the relationship, so that they see you. And then I was sharing that on some of the other calls where I know the teams don't like to join on video, many times I'll incentivize them to join that call, right? So maybe it's a challenge who can stay on the call the longest, right? On video, the longest, they receive some type of reward, an Uber gift card or something like that. Or maybe if they stay on the call, their level of engagement while being on video also warrants a reward, right? So for those teams that are probably on calls all day that you're talking to that don't feel like getting on video, especially at the end of the day, it's been great to provide some type of award or incentivize them to join.
Great. That's awesome. Thanks, Andrea, because being in sales, it's hard to build a relationship if they're not showing their camera and you just have the audio to deal with. So yes, those are great pointers. Let's hear from one more. These are excellent. And then feel free to also put in chat if you're not able to share, so everyone else can see some of those extra additional insights you have. One more person to share.
This is LaTanya. So I shared with my group how I had to have a backup because recently I was a panelist and they decided to do an update in the middle of the Teams meeting. So I had to use my phone in order to continue on. And so just having that backup, normally I'm not in sales or anything like that. I'm actually in procurement with the government. So I work with MARTA. And so when we are having people present their proposals, or if we're having pre-planning meetings, all of that is done virtually right now. And so just making sure that everything runs smoothly and having backup.
Right, yes, those updates will come like a vengeance in the middle of sometimes your presentation. So great point. Okay, Brandy is saying, first of all, Valerie, our group shared about the importance of assuring the muting and the unmuting when not speaking or not speaking.
Right. And I was actually going to share more. I hit enter before I finished. I was typing them out. But
Okay.
actually, it was Bridget and Nakia. We actually talked about the importance of muting and making sure, because avoiding all that background noise, which is very important because a lot of times you get those in even corporate meetings, you hear people ordering something or so forth at a restaurant or whatever.
Right.
Or the motorcycles in the background, even if they're in their car, sometimes you hear those noises. So it's important to make sure that you are sure that you are on mute. We talked about having like an icebreaker, a picture. I think Bridget shared about how someone had Bernie Sanders in the background as an icebreaker. A picture kind of breaks the ice a little bit.
Okay. Is it the one where he's sitting in the chair?
The meme.
Yeah, the meme. Yes.
Yeah.
That's funny, but be mindful from a political
right.
perspective.
Political. Yeah.
Political.
Yes.
Right. We talked about the green screen as well. And then we also talked about high tech. Nakia really said that, and I found that problem. That's one of the things that I was looking forward to, learning more about how to get more high tech screensaver, so to speak, because sometimes you're moving yourself around, you got to have a green screen because you are fuzzy. But if you get something that's more high tech, I think Nakia said he was at Georgia Tech. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if they want to say something too, I just wanted to share those because I know you're about to close it out.
Well, feel free to put it, your team to put it in the chat so everyone else can share. But I want to go ahead and move on to the next one. Just give everybody a round of applause. Thank you very much for your participation in the breakout rooms. I hope that if it's your first time being in a breakout room, you found it really smooth to go in there and come out. Some platforms may be a little bit more difficult, but this one, I know Zoom is a really good tool for breakout rooms. So the next thing I just wanted to share was some virtual team building activities. You've got the virtual happy hours. Like I mentioned that before, where you maybe after 5 o'clock, you have a glass of wine and everyone just sits around and just talks about anything. Scavenger hunts. There are some apps out there. I'll share a couple of them with you on the next slide that you can actually organize with your team a scavenger hunt or create one yourself. And you have those things like the murder mysteries or team problem solving for critical thinking. If you just Google virtual team building activities, there's globs of them out there. Jeopardy is one that I've used, which is really fun. And I use that to really test everyone's knowledge after training that where I need them to apply and know that information. I'll test them and come up with different categories pertaining to the subject that I've discussed. Tic-tac-toe is another one. Pick a team. Connect Four virtually. You can have Team Black, Team Red, and have the the Connect Four game up there. Ask a question, and there's a actual dice, a virtual die that you can download from the YouTube. And you just click it and it just gives you, and then you stop it and it gives you the actual number of the die. So you can utilize that in different ways to find out who goes first or who's going to be next for the question. Virtual escape rooms. Those are awesome. Those are the next slide will give you one of them that I actually thought was cool. I think it's Rudix or something. I'll put that up in the next slide, and then name that tune like I did today. I named that Black owned business. Name that place, name that restaurant, come up with anything as far as an icebreaker or just a team activity. You can utilize this during a regular meeting or just the happy hours. Come up with something really fun. So those are some tidbits for you. Sharing a picture activity or going to have each person go and find something in their house that they want to talk about, an object. This one here for me is very sentimental. My grandmother passed away at 97 about 3 years ago. And a few months after she passed away, I always thought, all my grandmothers have been near and dear to me. I always want something that really commemorates who they are, something that I want to keep from them. And I didn't get to do that. But a few months later, I was told by the doctor that I was highly anemic and I needed to get a skillet, an iron skillet to start cooking with. And I went all over Atlanta. It was just not the right skillet. For some reason, I was like, oh, this is a nice skillet. But something just told me in my heart that it wasn't something I needed to buy. So a few days later, I went home to South Carolina, and my dad gives me this thing in a paper bag. It's heavy, and I open it up. He's like, this was your grandmother's skillet. And I just teared up, and I was done. And I was like, how did you know I needed this? And this is grandma's skillet. So when I cook in this, and you can see that it's nice and oiled, I had to clean it up. 97 years, she used this probably for 70 something years. And to me, when I cook it in the skillet, I feel a part of her. So this is an example of you sharing a picture activity and going around as a team building and just having people, tell their story. So think in terms of something like that you can incorporate within your teams. I have no idea what the brand of the skillet is. It's so old. It's probably a good 80 years old. And everyone that comes to my house knows not to touch my skillet. I'm the only one that cooks with it. So that's an example of, some of the things that you can bring to life. And these two apps, there's many of them, but these are two that I researched and found pretty cool that you could go to. Robux, it's that virtual, the room that I was telling you about, the escape room. You can do all kinds of activities on Robux. Here's a website, I think. Yes, they have online escape rooms. You can do all kinds of things, interactive fun. There, you can go and watch a video of how they do the escape rooms, puzzles. It's just a number of things that you can do with this company if you have the budget. Like I said, if you have the budget. And then the other one is, let's go back here. The other one is Scavify. That's a little bit similar to Robux, and that's what that looks like, but it's a scavenger hunt app that you can utilize. So research those and any others that you can Google just as a tool for creating engagement and interaction in your meetings. Okay.
Wow.
Questions, comments that you have. I'm going to turn it over to Donna or Lauren. If you have any questions, I actually do have, as they are asking, if you're getting questions, I want to go ahead and put up a poll for your evaluation, if you don't mind, being that we're pressed for time, as you guys are closing out. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. And as we close out, I want to say thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Teresa. This was awesome. I do want to make one comment about the more so meetings than presentations. So I think how you participate in a meeting and how you conduct the meeting really depends on where you sit in your organization. And so I sit in a different position in my organization in management than, say, someone on my staff. And so I just want to encourage all of you to think about that when you're participating in meetings, because you never know who's watching, who's listening, who's, and so I just wanted to give that tidbit from my perspective, and so I want to say thank you so much, Teresa. Really quickly, while you guys take the evaluation, I want to close out. Teresa, if you could go to the next slide, by again thanking you and saying that we are going to conduct the third part of this 3-part series on February 24th with Teresa, and it's leading employee engagement using human and business strategies. And as you can see, Teresa has a wealth of information about the strategies for growing and just developing your employees, as well as working in this virtual world. So please, please, please feel free to join us again on February 24th from 1 to 2:30 with Teresa. As you can see, she has very interactive sessions. Next slide. We're also continuing with our CARES program, assistance program. So pass the word, especially I know we have MEP people on the line. We're doing a webinar on machine guarding with our safety, health and environmental services group, SHES group, on February 16th next week. And it's focused, directed primarily to manufacturers and the construction industry. So for anybody on the line, you too, Teresa, who's working with manufacturers, please, it's open to everybody. So please have them, feel free to join us. Next slide. And so we have a series of, webinars around health and safety. This is another one that's in a couple of weeks with our health hazard awareness, again, with our SHES group. Next slide. And I think finally, walking working services. So these are just separate webinars around health and safety that again, this is probably really, really more targeted to manufacturers and the construction industry or working surfaces. And then we have a roundtable, next slide, with consultation with our safety and health and safety group. So if you're interested or you have companies that are interested in spending some time, one-on-one time with our SHES group, that's our safety, health and environmental services group, please have them join us for an hour on these days just to ask questions and discuss very specific topics around health and safety. I think with that, let me see the last slide.
I did want to cut in real quick, Donna. We have our first safety and health management roundtable this Friday, and it's free to attend and open to everybody. So I put a link in the chat for those who are interested.
Cool. And with that, I would just want to say thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you, Teresa. A lot of fun and good tidbits, and enjoy your day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.